So I'm going to review many different natural ways on how we can lower our blood sugar levels. Now, our blood sugar is so important. Our blood sugar regulates so many important functions of our body. And when our blood sugar level becomes elevated, we then start looking for significant problems like diabetic neuropathies, conditions that can affect clogging of the arteries, problems that can affect our eyes, our kidneys, high blood pressure. So the list goes on, as well as metabolic syndrome. But we want to be able to regulate and monitor our blood sugar. And the majority of people out there who have higher blood sugars, which is a great amount of people worldwide, is usually stems from poor diet, because poor diet will lead to obesity, and obesity will then bring on this potential diabetic or insulin resistant condition. Now, you don't have to be fat to have insulin resistance. If you're having a poor diet, you can get insulin resistance. It means too much sugar. So the first thing that I want to talk about, when we take in sugars or carbohydrates, these carbohydrates are then broken down into glucose. And glucose, the job is to allow glucose to get into the cells so we can get energy. Those are carbohydrates. So in order for glucose to get into cells, the pancreas must secrete insulin. And insulin then allows glucose to get in the cells. But what happens is when we have too much glucose over a period of time, particularly processed and refined foods, this particular insulin, or this hormone insulin, tries to get up into the cells, and eventually it becomes, it doesn't allow eventually glucose to get in the cells, it becomes resistant. All right, there's a few reasons why. I'm not going to go all into that, but one of the reasons why they find it is from not only from too much sugar, but from sugar getting into the cells too quick. So as sugar rises too fast, that means we need to get a surge of insulin to allow it to get into the cells, but then we get the rebound. We start becoming very tired and sluggish. We start putting a lot of stress on the pancreas. It's a whole vicious cycle. So when insulin, the receptors in the cells, are not functioning correctly, it doesn't allow glucose into the cells. Glucose builds in the bloodstream, eventually leading to hyperglycemia, which we call prediabetes, or insulin resistant, eventually leads to diabetes. So the first thing that we need to be aware of is exercise. Exercise is one of the greatest things you can do. And it's proven that when you exercise, it may be walking, using light weight, doing a little bit resistant exercise, maybe biking, maybe whatever type of exercise you like. But when we utilize our muscles, we allow the cells of our body to become more insulin sensitive. So when we allow the cells to become more insulin sensitive, that means that we don't have to depend so much on insulin to allow glucose to get into the cells, because the muscles in itself, even without insulin, can absorb glucose to a certain degree. So exercise is one of the most important things that you can do to increase insulin sensitivity and decrease insulin resistance. The next thing is to manage your carbs. If you're eating tons of processed foods, tons of refined foods, and you don't have that fiber, which is going to be one of our things we're going to talk about. But if we have too much surge of carbs, we're going to shock our system, and we're going to always start to become very tired and sluggish after we eat. So if you notice, when you eat, you have lots of energy. And when you're eating lots of carbs, you are affecting different hormones in your body, like ghrelin, leptin. Ghrelin is our hunger hormone. But as our hormones become off, because sugar is inflammatory, number one, too much sugar is inflammatory. I'm talking about refined processed sugars or added sugars. That sugar becomes an addiction, just like cocaine, just like alcohol, just like tobacco. And your brain will crave it because of the fact that sugar does not have any nutritive value. So therefore, your body's getting energy, but there's no nutrition in it. So what happens is the body craves more, thinking it's going to get more nutrition, but it's not. It becomes a vicious cycle. So sugar is addicting. And I can tell everyone out there, you must find ways of lowering your sugar intake and having a better diet, which I'm going to help you today. Eating more fiber, vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains. The key thing about fiber, we have two kinds. We have soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber is the fiber that latches on to liquid. It when it kind of swells. It gives us satiety. Insoluble fiber is the fiber like your roughage, like your lettuces, that doesn't have that solubility. But both fibers are important. But out of the two, soluble fiber is more important. The pectin of an apple, the legumes, the beans, those are all soluble fiber. Chia seeds, soluble fiber. And what that does, it absorbs fluid. And not only does it absorb fluid, it lowers your bad cholesterol, your LDLs, as well as your triglycerides. It latches onto them. So this can prevent clogging of the arteries, heart attacks, strokes. Soluble fiber is so important. Also, soluble fiber will slow the absorption of the stomach into the small intestine. So therefore, sugar regulation is at a norm. It's not a spike. And therefore, you will sustain regular energy over a period of time. You will not have a downfall, and you will not have that insulin resistance because you are allowing sugars to come into the cells slowly rather than abruptly. There's another thing. I don't want to jump the gun. Let me come to it first. The next thing is hydration. It's proven that people who have too much sugar in their blood right now, many of us do, by just adding more water, hydration, we can allow the kidneys to filtrate out more sugar to lower our sugar levels. Pretty cool. So it tells you that if you don't hydrate and you are more prone to have higher blood sugars, this can be a problem. Remember, high blood sugar leads to clogging of the arterioles, the small little arterioles, and that can affect the nerves. That can eventually cause diabetic neuropathy because the nerves must have blood circulation. And if the nerves are not getting its blood circulation, those nerves can be damaged. Okay, usually starts in the feet, can work its way in the legs, usually the farthest away from the heart. But that's another very important thing, is that we can actually lower blood sugar by increasing water. Portion control. People are always trying to lose weight. And one of the easiest ways to lose weight, use half the plate. That means half the portion. So if you use smaller plates, you avoid the all-you-can-eat restaurants. You start looking at the food labels, checking the serving sizes, maybe keeping a food journal, start eating more slowly. Remember, it takes 20 minutes for your stomach to tell your brain you're full. So if you are a fast eater, you're not only getting too many calories, too much sugar, and that can be a big problem. Now, what we talked about with the fiber, here is the trick. This is probably worth millions of dollars. This little trick I'm going to tell you right here. And a lot of people know this, but those that don't, there's what we call a glycemic index. And I do recommend all of you to Google glycemic index. And you have a high glycemic index, a medium glycemic index, and a low glycemic index. And the high glycemic index, the glycemic index goes from 0 to 100. Sugars, simple sugars have a real high. And basically, low glycemic indexes are rankings of 55 or less. The lower, the better. Like grapefruit is one of the lowest. Your berries are very low because they have fiber. So here's the trick I'm getting to. When you eat foods in the whole state that have fiber with it, in the whole state before it's processed or refined, it's always going to be a moderate to low glycemic index. That's the trick. Your legumes, your fruits, your vegetables, your peanuts obviously doesn't have the sugars, but they're all going to be low glycemic or moderate glycemic. You want that. Low glycemic means is that the sugar is going to absorb into the cell slower. That's what we want. That's going to reverse insulin resistance. That's going to lower, even reverse diabetes. I believe we can reverse diabetes as long as you realize that you need to start doing things correctly. You want to manage your stress levels. This is a big one. Stress affects hormones, glucagon and cortisol. Glucagon basically is secreted from the pancreas, and it tells the liver to break down glycogen into glucose. So when you are stressed, you need sugars. So the glucagon allows the liver to break down sugars, which then circulates into your body. And all those extra sugars, as well as cortisol, allows the body to break down sugars as well. And too much sugar then puts a burden on the pancreas. And now you have all this free-floating sugar all the time. And this is a problem because now you need insulin to always try to get sugar into the cells. And it gets burned out. And this is how we become type 2 diabetes, insulin resistant, as a result of this excessive stress. So you need to manage stress through yoga, meditation, however it is. You can also measure and monitor your blood sugars. There's glucometers as well as portable blood glucose meters that you can use if you have to, if you have any doubt. And basically, I'll leave that to you. Now, the other important thing, a very, very important thing, is getting quality sleep. And I'm guilty of this as well because I spend lots of time editing. I do all my own editing because no one could do it like me. So realize that when we don't sleep correctly, this can increase cortisol levels, which can obviously affect our blood sugar levels. This can affect our insulin resistance, and it actually can go against insulin sensitivity, leading to more problems. People who do not sleep correctly usually have more ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone. Usually get up, you have more craving to eat more food. Generally, you're going to attack the food that has simple sugars. And you're going to eat more of that food because you're going to feel better because your body and your brain is telling you to do so. You can't control it. So a couple of things, try to work on a sleep schedule. That's my problem. Obviously, trying to cut down the screen, the blue light, limit your nap time. You may want to use it like scents like lavender oils and things before you go to bed, or maybe a little, some natural essential oils when you go to bed that can really make you nice and relaxed. I like, a little chamomile tea, maybe a shower before you go to bed. I just did a little shorts video. Putting socks on your feet, keeping your feet warm helps lower your body core, which makes your brain secrete more melatonin. Maybe a little meditation, guided imagery, something, but you got the hint. It's really important. The other very important thing, two things. One is chromium. Chromium picolinate, I think, is a great thing to take. You can take it with meals. You can get your chromium-rich foods through your fruit, vegetables, your nuts, your meats, your whole grain products, and actually magnesium. There are millions of people out there who are just deficient in magnesium, including myself, and as well as millions of others. And why? Because the magnesium is in our nuts and our whole grains, but we don't know the soils of where our foods are coming from. If you know, I'm sure you can agree with this. And plus stress. How many people are under stress constantly, physically, emotionally, financially? Right? Give me a thumbs up in the chat room. How many people are in stress? We all have stress. We just have to monitor it better. That's the key. So those are really important things to look at your magnesium levels. Magnesiums are your dark, leafy, lean vegetables, or bananas, avocados. Avocados are great, by the way, has great fiber, great essential oils, great magnesium, even dark chocolate. You can have dark chocolate. Have it. The dark chocolate doesn't have a lot of sugar if it's the dark chocolate over like 85%. And watch the sugars, and you have other dark chocolates that use stevia and other things that don't have any sugar. So those are actually good. Your tuna, your squash, your pumpkin seeds are really good magnesium as well. Pumpkin seeds are really, really good. So you want to consider a couple more important things that can really help lower your blood sugar. One is apple cider vinegar. It's proven that we have apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon with a cup of water before your meal that can sustain normal glucose insulin levels to help absorb it easier. Cinnamon is another one, making you more insulin sensitivity. And I think cinnamon is one of the greatest herbs when it comes to sugars. Fenugreek seeds are also very good. Now, there's a lot of other ones out there. But those are some really, really good ones. The other thing you want to do, as we said, is maintain a moderate weight program, because I can tell you that when you start losing weight, if you're heavy, particularly if you have visceral fat, your blood sugar is going to come way down automatically if you did nothing. So that is probably the quickest way for those who are obese or heavy. I don't like to say fat, but if you are carrying more weight, as you lose weight, your glucose, your insulin sensitivity will become higher. It will become more responsive, and it's very, very healthy for you. Another big thing is eating probiotic-rich foods. Your kefir, tempeh, sauerkraut, kimchi. They've done so many studies, even by eating more probiotics. This is going to actually help your A1C levels, as well as make you more insulin sensitive and make you less insulin resistant. They have a lot of studies out there. Remember, our gut affects everything in our body. Our gut and our brain work together. Not only the probiotics, but the prebiotics. The prebiotics are your fiber-soluble fibers. Your apples, fruits, vegetables, chia seeds, because the prebiotics, the purpose of them is that feeds the probiotics. Okay, so the more your probiotics can really grow within your gut, the healthier you're going to be, the less sugar problems you're going to have, the more balance of glucose that you're going to be able to optimize in your health. So we're almost getting there. So we're really pushing it. We're really hitting it hard, and you guys are really doing great. So when it comes to carbs, yeah, I always believe they say low carbs. I think low carb is good. I do believe that you can eat normal carbs as long as you have normal fiber. You're going to stay away from processed and refined carbs. And I do not believe that just going on a keto diet is the answer to lower blood sugar. It will lower your blood sugar, but remember, there are studies out there right now, and I'm going to tell you now, and I'm not going to go into it deeply. I'll save it for another program. Unfortunately, the studies show that those people who have too much saturated fat is affecting more insulin resistance. Because of the fact that saturated fat is obstructing the cells of where the insulin is getting on, where the insulin is attaching onto, and that saturated fat is kind of like clogging those cells, those receptors, and that is leading to more issues of glucose trying to get into the cells. So I'm a big believer, and the studies are out there, and I was looking at them. I'm not going to open the door right now. Going on keto or low carb. Low carb to me is better than anything. Okay, you're still eating carbs, you're still eating healthy carbs, but you're not getting tons and tons and tons and tons of saturated fat. It's the too much saturated fat that can lead to problems. Google saturated fat and insulin resistance. You get a lot of PubMed. I'm talking about the top of the top, and you'll read up on that. And I think that's something you can really learn from. But the key thing is, here's the key thing is limiting the refined carbs. Refined carbs is your table sugar, your white sugars, your white breads, your white rice, your soda candy, your breakfast cereals, your desserts. As many of these cereals that say that they're healthy, look at the ingredients. If the beginning of the ingredient shows that it's flour, sugar, or any other type of sugar that you see going on in there, you need to be aware. Be aware, because this is where insulin resistance starts. Okay, very, very, very important. Okay, please just take that for what it's worth. Sugar intake is another thing. The average American consumes 22 teaspoons of added sugar per day. That translates to around 350 calories. We need to limit the amount of sugar that we're added to our foods. And even if you're not adding sugar, you need to be aware of high fructose corn syrup. You need to be aware of sucrose, even fructose, which is a fruit sugars by itself. If you're drinking sugars, fruit juices without the fiber, it's the same thing as like having regular sugar. Remember, it's still doing the same thing. This is still can lead to insulin resistance. When you put too much sugar in your body, the insulin has to wake up from the pancreas. The pancreas has to wake up sending more insulin. It's because a whole vicious thing. Remember, the purpose of fiber is to slow the absorption of sugar into the cells. Therefore, we never get that really big spike and that really hard hit on our body. So keeping a healthy weight is important. Exercise more is important. Eating the fiber, drinking more water, we talked about that. Even introducing any kind of vinegar. If you don't like apple cider vinegar, maybe just any type of vinegar you can have before a meal. That will sustain and help balance out sugars, make you more insulin sensitive. So it doesn't just have to be that, okay? Let me just pull up a couple other things. Number one, you want to limit too much alcohol. I think that's important because alcohol is sugars. All right, so that's another important thing. Let me just pull up this other thing real quick to make sure I complete my topic here with you, that we're not missing anything. Okay, so the large meals, you really need to cut down. The large meals, you're going to be getting too much. You want to fill up on fiber. Fiber is a great thing. Flaxseed, chia seeds, insoluble fiber, soluble fiber. Try to get more quality shut-eye. It's really important for all of us. And we talk about even just a little weight loss is going to make a big difference. Handling stress is a big thing. Try not to skip meals if you don't have to. Okay, I always believe that eating protein throughout the day, little bits of protein, a handful of nuts can sustain normal insulin levels. It takes more calories for our body to burn protein than it does the other macronutrients of carbohydrates and fats. So when it comes down to caloric burn, and another very important thing is resistant starch. A lot of people don't know what this is. Resistant starch is like your unripe bananas. Before the enzymes formed into sugar, when it gets too ripe, it's too sweet. Your beans, your lentils, your peas, certain whole grains, oats, barleys, these types of foods, these resistant starches don't really break down into so much sugars. It's more like, this is something that can really make a big difference when it comes down to working with our insulin sensitivity. You can Google resistant starches. You can look at other foods as well. Well, guys, I can tell you that if you can assimilate this that we just talked about, and I'm talking about, we talk about the healthy foods, the fruits and vegetables, the greens, um, and I think it's really good that when you in the morning that when you blend up your moderate to low glycemic index foods. My favorite are your berries. Take a little almond milk, little almond milk, little chia seed. You could throw half a banana in there. Sometimes a little dates if you want to sweeten it up. But be creative. And it's always better to blend it up because you want that fiber when you drink it down. Okay, it's always better to blend it up because that blending up gives you the fiber, makes you more satiated. You're not going to feel full. Losing weight, sustaining normal balance of insulin and glucose levels is just doing things smart and tactful. That's it. It's very easy. It's very simple. Yes, there's a lot of dried fruit. People mention cut down on raisins. Yeah, a lot of dried fruit has very high sugars. But if they have high sugars, what you need to do, okay, nuts is great, by the way. Yes, nuts is excellent. What you need to do, if you have any doubt, look at the chart, Google glycemic index. And if you see that the numbers are lower, moderate to lower, it's good. That's how you're going to make your decisions. But you'll notice that when you look at the glycemic index chart, the majority of foods that don't have fiber are the high glycemic index. And the majority of foods that do have fiber, that are whole state, those are the low to moderate glycemic index. Well, I thank all of you that just tuning in with me and listening to me means a lot to me. This, again, if you just tuned in, if you're a new listener, this, as you see right now, it is posted on my channel because I will make sure it's all edited correctly. But please share this video. Share it with your friends and family. If you haven't subscribed, please do so as well. My goal is to see good health with you, your loved ones, and family, to see a long, productive life, to see a healthy life. Nutrition is powerful. Nutrition is everything. What we eat is who we are. That's how we heal. All healing comes from within. We have to feed our body with good nutrition, good nutrients, good vitamins, good minerals. That's the key. That is so important. So please share this video and leave your comments below. And most important, make it a great day. I'm Dr. Alan Mandell.